You check your phone 85 times a day. But when was the last time? Have you checked your mind? Do you think you're choosing to pick up your phone, scroll for the fits, distract yourself with each notification? But what if it doesn't? Are you choosing nothing at all? What if I told you that your lack of discipline is not a personal defect, but proof that your mind works exactly as it should when it is under a sophisticated psychological attack? You think you are weak, you blame yourself for being scattered, out of focus, searching constantly something you can't identify. But what if the biggest theft of the history of humanity doesn't affect your pocket or your privacy, but to your own conscience? This is the question that changes everything. What if the biggest prison doesn't is around your body, but around your mind, and you are at the same time the prisoner and the guard? Carl Jung said, "The scariest thing is accept yourself completely, but I'm going to show you something even more terrifying and infinitely more liberating. The cage you think you're trapped in. You built it, you maintain it, and you're the only one who can open it. When we finish, you will understand why teams of neuroscientists are paid millions to fragment your attention. You will see how your deepest desires will be fulfilled, have become weapons against your own awareness, and you will realize that the key to your freedom was never lost. You just forgot it was in your hands. But first we must understand exactly what has been stolen from you. This is what really happens when you pick up the phone. Your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical that produces cocaine. But here is the problem. Technology companies, they've turned it into a weapon. Each notification, every red badge, every movement infinity is designed as a machine slot machines. The uncertainty of when you will receive the next I like, next message, that's what makes you come back. But it's not just about addiction to social networks. It's about something much more insidious, kidnapping systematic exploitation of the most precious resource your mind, your attention. Scientists, they call it emotional hijacking. A part of the brain acts as an alarm system. Seeing these notifications, it turns on and off part of the brain that thinks with clarity. Literally, you lose the ability to make good decisions, and platforms have turned this into what the researchers call the economy of dopamine. They don't sell you products. They sell your attention to advertisers. You have become the product, and your mind is the factory. Think about yesterday. How many times you picked up the phone with a specific purpose only for find yourself 20 minutes later watching videos you'll never remember? It wasn't a lack of will. It was that your neural pathways were exploited by algorithms designed by teams of neuroscientists and economists of the behavior. An average person checks their phone 58 times a day. That's equivalent to once every 17 minutes. Who is awake? Every time you review it, you fragment your attention, creating what the researchers call partial attention continues. It is never completely present, is never completely concentrated, it is never completely yours. But this is what technological companies don't want you to know. This fragmentation not only affects your productivity, reconfigures the reward system of your brain. You start to crave the external validation because your since valuable inmate has been kidnapped. You start measuring your value with metrics designed by unknown persons. Like, share, comment. The scariest thing. Most people has no idea what's going on. They think they are choosing to review their phone. They think they're choosing navigate. But the choice requires consciousness, and consciousness is precisely what they have stolen. This is not paranoia, it's documented science. Studies show that the simple fact having the phone visible, even off, reduces cognitive performance by 10%. Your brain is literally allocating processing capacity to withstand the need to review it. You're not weak, you're not addicted. You respond exactly like any human being, sophisticated psychological manipulation designed by some of the most minds brightest on the planet. But what if I would say that this digital theft is just the surface? And if the real kidnapping goes further of the screens and applications? And if something old is stolen from your mind, something that once you understand, it changes everything? Because the cage that lock your attention, it's just the beginning of a much longer prison bigger than you ever knew you were. More than a century ago, Carl Jung made a shocking statement. The scariest thing is to accept yourself completely. He wasn't referring to self-love or trust. It referred to something much more dangerous for the systems that are benefit from your scattered attention. Jung, he discovered what he called the sexual shadow, the parts of your sexuality and energy vital that you have been taught to hide, deny, or that you are ashamed of. But this is what neuroscience modern has shown. When you repress, these natural impulses not disappear. They're kidnapped. Think about it. Whenever you feel a natural desire, whether it be sexual attraction, creative passion, the innate ambition, and immediately you feel guilt or shame, where does it go, that energy? Jung discovered that relegated to the unconscious, where it becomes what psychologists now, they call it seeking compulsion. That's why the dopamine economy works also. Those tech companies, don't they not only steal your attention, but they feed on your sexual shadow. Every time that you slide your finger on an app appointments, every click on content provocative, each endless navigation through bodies and lifestyles that you will never have, that is your strength, natural, vital, redirected to your machine profit. Recent neuroimaging studies prove that Jung was right. When you suppress natural desires, your brain is reconfigured to search for the external validation. The ways that should make you feel good from inside are absorbed by that which you provides immediate gratification. But this is where the Jung's genius that he didn't say that you will not eliminate sexuality or desire. He said to integrate it. You will transform. He called this process individuation. Become who you really are in place of who you have been programmed for being. Jung identified something he called the inner warrior. Not the stereotype toxic masculine you could imagine, but a disciplined internal force that protects your mental energy from external manipulation. This warrior does not fight against desires. Transform them in what Jung called sublimation. Sublimation is when you take that pure sexual energy, that life force, and you consciously direct it towards creative and meaningful activities. Instead of mindlessly browsing, you create. Instead of compulsively seeking the validation, you build something valuable. Instead of being scattered, you concentrate. Modern research confirms that this works. The studies demonstrate that people who they practice what psychologists call regulation of desire through the conscious redirection instead of suppression show higher performance cognitive, greater emotional stability, and greater resilience to manipulation digital. The ancient yogis knew it. They called it brahmacharya, not celibacy, but the conscious management of energy vital. Martial artists know this. They channel aggression into discipline. Artists know it. They transform the emotional chaos in beauty, but you have taught otherwise. You have been programmed to make you ashamed of your desires or to please them without thinking. Both answers weaken you. Both make you controllable. Both keep you trapped in the same cage we were talking about. Sexual shadow is not the enemy. It's your largest, untapped source of power. When you integrate it instead of hide from her, when you transform it instead of repressing it, something extraordinary happens. You stop being a victim of your impulses, you become its master. And here is the part that should terrify everyone, a company that profits from your distraction. When you recover this energy, when you consciously transform, you become immune to manipulation. You stop needing their validation because you have found your own inner source of power. But Jung warned about something more. He said that this integration has a cost. We must face the truth about what this culture disperses and sexualized has really robbed us. Here's a fact that will change your perspective. When you expose yourself to sexualized content, your performance cognitive decline by up to 20%. Not because you are weak, but because your brain hijacks mental resources to monitor and evaluate your own body. Scientists call it self-objectification. Every time you see a sexualized image, an Instagram model, an advertisement provocative, or someone watching you, your brain goes into surveillance mode corporal. You start monitoring your appearance, how they perceive you, how you compare yourself to the others. This is not vanity, it's your ability to think clearly, which is being dismantled systematically. Studies show that when people see sexualized content, their working memory decreases significantly. They have worse results in exams math. They have difficulties with logical reasoning and show a lower concentration. The most surprising thing is this: it occurs even with subtle sexualization, even when they don't notice it consciously. Think about yesterday. How many times did you see a provocative image, a person attractive, or thought about your appearance? Each time your brain diverted valuable mental resources of what you were trying to achieve. You lost focus, drive, and mental clarity. To this, Jung was referring to when he spoke of the sexual shadow that consumes your energy vital. That feeling of dispersion, that inability to concentrate deeply, that constant restlessness, it's not a character flaw. It's the predictable outcome of living in a culture designed to fragment your attention through stimulation sexual. The cost goes beyond the productivity. The research demonstrates that chronic exposure to sexualized content literally reconfigures your system rewards. You start to need stimulation more intense to feel satisfied. Simple joys, a setting of sun, a good conversation, a job finished, they lose their power to fill you up. Brain scans reveal that people with high exposure to sexualized media present a decrease in activity in the prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for self-control, long-term planning, and decision-making conscious decisions. The capabilities necessary to build a full life are systematically weakened. This is what should make you angry. It's not coincidence. Advertisers have known for a long time, for decades, sexual arousal has been literally affects judgment. Thomas Worst financial decisions. You become more impulsive. It's easier to manipulate you. The fashion industry, the entertainment industry, network social, they don't show you beautiful people aesthetic reasons. They're stealing your ability to take conscious decisions on purpose. Remember that inner warrior from what was Jung talking about? This is your enemy. No sex itself, but the instrumentalization of images sexual to disperse your energy mental, to keep you distracted, impulsive, and controllable. The studies demonstrate that people who they practice conscious consumption media, actively controlling their exposure to sexualized content, show significant improvements in their cognitive performance in just 2 weeks. Your attention span increases, your emotional stability improves, your ability to pursue long-term goals are strengthened. If this is what sexualized content does to your mind, what is it doing to it? Making our entire society? We are experiencing fragmentation of collective attention, decrease of academic performance, increased anxiety and depression, reduction in attention span in entire populations. It's not just about productivity, personal. It is about weakening systematic of one's own consciousness human. The good news, as soon as you understand what they have told you stolen, you can start to recover it. As soon as you see how your attention has been turned into a weapon against you, you can start claiming it. Because there is a way out of this cage. There is a way back to the mind-focused, powerful, and distraction-free with which you were born. This is what no one tells you about freeing yourself. It's not about willpower. It is about replace unconscious consumption with conscious choice. And the transformation begins with something as simpler than most people ignores. Conscious media consumption. First, understand what you're up against. All the apps on your phone use persuasive technology, functions of design designed to bypass your decision-making conscious decisions. The displacement infinite. Red notifications know they are accidental, they are weapons psychological, but here's your counter strategy. Start with the intention pause. Before answering the phone, ask yourself, what do I expect to find now same? Most of the time you will realize that you don't really know. That pause, that moment of awareness is where your freedom begins. Then implement limits digital. The investigations demonstrate that the simple fact of having the visible phone reduces the cognitive performance by 10%. Create technology-free zones, your bedroom, your workspace, specific schedules. This is not deprivation, but protecting your most valuable asset, your attention. The true transformation occurs when you practice what Jung called conscious redirection of desire. Instead of suppressing thoughts, sexual, or feeling guilty, transforms that energy in action with purpose. Are you feeling excited? Channel it into creative work. Are you feeling restless? Use it for physical exercise. Do you feel scattered? Transform it into concentrated meditation. Stanford studies show that those who practice conscious management of energy show greater motivation, better emotional regulation, and a significantly cognitive performance improved in just 2 weeks. Know you are fighting against your desires, but that you are becoming his master. Here's a practice that changes it. Everything. The daily media audit. Every night, spend 5 minutes checking the content you consumed. Ask yourself, did this contribute to my goals? Strengthened or dispersed my energy? You will be surprised by the amount of food mental garbage you've been consuming unconsciously. The ancient Stoics knew this secret. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not over the external events." Modern neuroscience demonstrates that I was right. Your brain stays flexible throughout your life. Each conscious decision literally reconfigures your neural connections. But this is where most of the people fail. They try to do it alone. Research shows that support community five-fold the efforts of individual transformation. Find people who share your commitment to mental clarity. The road to freedom is not traveled alone. Create anchors of purpose, clear and meaningful goals that you provide a more robust approach than endless distractions. When you have a mission that really it matters, resist manipulation digital becomes automatic. You're not missing anything. You're choosing something better. Start with 5 minutes of daily meditation. You don't try to empty your mind, but train consciousness to recognize when your attention wanders. This develops metacognitive awareness, the ability to observe your own mental processes. This is what happens when you apply these practices. That feeling of dispersion disappears. You regain the ability to concentrate deeply. You stop needing external validation because you have reconnected with your source internal satisfaction. The most profound change. You cease to be victim of your circumstances and you become the author of your experience. That inner warrior I was talking about, Jung, emerges naturally when you regain your attention. You transform your desires and you choose consciousness. By above, reactivity. Companies that benefit from your distraction, they don't want you to know, but you already have everything you need to free you. The prison was never there closed. You just forgot that you had the key. And here is the beautiful irony. When enough individuals they regain their mental sovereignty, something remarkable thing happens to society itself. This is what happens when enough people claim their mental sovereignty. Entire systems begin to collapse, and who benefit from your care are absolutely dispersed, terrified by this possibility. Think about it. If millions of people turned around immune to digital manipulation, what would happen with the attention economy if people stopped consuming content senselessly sexualized? What would happen to the industries based on an insecurity and comparison? The research shows something remarkable. When even 20% of a community develops cognitive resilience, creates a protective effect for all others. It's like herd immunity, but for the conscience. We are already seeing the first signs. Generation Z, despite having raised with smartphones, is starting to reject the same platforms that they molded them. They demand digital well-being features. They prefer authentic connection to custom performance. They wonder why their mental health is deteriorated the moment they open social media accounts. The real one revolution is not happening online, but in schools, families, and communities, where people they prefer presence to distraction. Educational programs that teach emotional regulation and consumption conscious means show results spectacular. Better performance academic, better relationships, and rates anxiety and depression significantly lower. This is not a utopia, it's happening. Countries like Norway and France are implementing policies to protect children from digital manipulation. Companies are hiring architects of care instead of interaction engineers. The language is changing from extraction to protection. The most profound change, it is the transfer of consciousness intergenerational. When adults model, use technology aware, and demonstrate that happiness does not come from external validation, children assimilate these lessons at a neurological level. Neuroscience research suggests that cultures can develop new forms of consciousness in just a few generations. When a sufficient number of individuals develop consciousness metacognitive, this becomes a cultural norm. Children grow up with this capacity as a basis. Potentially, we are facing the first generation in the history of humanity that could grow truly free from systematic hijacking of attention free from artificial desire and scarcity artificial, free to direct your life, energy, towards the purposes you choose consciously. But this transformation only occurs if enough people choose it. Companies that benefit from your distraction understand this threat. That's what they invest billions in to refine its manipulation. Therefore, your personal decision matters more than what you believe. Every time you stop before the phone, whenever you choose depth instead of distraction, not only do you free yourself, you contribute to the liberation of the human consciousness. That feeling of dispersion with which you started, that feeling of being trapped in an invisible cage, you begin to see that the cage was never real. It was a shared illusion, maintained by unconsciousness collective. And as soon as enough people they wake up, the illusion loses its power above all. Do you remember when shall we start? I told you to check your phone 96 times a day, but when was the last time you checked your mind? I said you feel more connected than ever, but at the same time, more dispersed than ever. Now you know the truth. That feeling of dispersion was not personal weakness. Those 96 calls they showed your lack of discipline. They were evidence that your mind responded perfectly to a sophisticated war psychological designed by teams of neuroscientists. You thought you were choosing to move, to distract yourself, but you weren't choosing anything. You were responding exactly like any other human to a systematic kidnapping of your attention. The largest prison is not around your body, but around of your mind. And you're both the prisoner like the guard. But now you see what that really means. You have all the power to free her. This changes everything. Every moment of scattered attention, every impulse restless. Every time you blamed yourself for being weak, now you can see it differently way. It wasn't a personal failure. It was your conscience calling you to yourself. Your attention belongs to you. Your desires belong to you. Your mind belongs to you. Take it back. But this revelation raises questions deeper. What other invisible prisons do you maintain? How many illusions shared are you willing to dissolve? Your mental liberation is just the beginning of a much greater awakening. Here's a question that only makes sense now that you have completed this journey. Always you have been free, but you convince yourself at the opposite. What else in your reality is a choice you forgot you were making doing? Leave your answer in the comments. But the most important thing is that you start to live as the sovereign being that always has been. If this circular revelation transformed your perspective, you're ready for the deepest circles that are approaching. Subscribe to join a community of minds that refuse to remain caged. Your liberation is the liberation of all. The circle continues.